Hey, good afternoon, 8th period. As you can tell, I had to leave early today. So instead of doing the class in person, I will be doing the class through these series of videos. If you want to take a moment and set up your notebook in the next available page in your notebook, the header is Stalin. The daily inquiry is why was Stalin a successful leader? How does Stalin compare to Hitler? We'll be analyzing that question over the next two lessons. So feel free to pause the video and set up your page. Once you're done with that, we'll go ahead and do the do now. The do now is asking you, why was communism appealing post-World War I? Why was fascism appealing post-World War I? Feel free to pause the video and answer those questions in your notebook before we move on. Okay, so on your way in, you should have picked up this handout. So over the two next lessons, we are going to be analyzing Hitler and Stalin. And we're going to be analyzing them through a variety of lenses. The first lens is, how did they come to power? So when did they come to power? How? What tactics were used in their rise to power? Who did they replace? How did they replace it? Did they come to power with public support or without public support? What was the role of propaganda or personal charisma in their rise to power? Charisma is referring to like their positive character attributes. What were the key arguments or justifications they used to explain their rise to power? So really looking at, how do people like Stalin and Hitler gain power? And then the consolidation of their power. So when you consolidate something, it's like you kind of like bring it together and you make it strong and powerful. So how did they really bring their power into something that nobody could really stand against? So what was the role of the army, policies, or special forces? How was anyone who opposed them dealt with? What was, once again, the role of propaganda and censorship, and how effective was it? And then the next aspect we'll be looking at is, once they gained power, what did they then do with that power? So what were their economic, social, foreign policies? How were they enforced? What was their view on the economy, on society, education, culture, religions, gender, minorities, all that stuff? And then finally, we'll be looking at their successes and failures. So how long did they remain in power? What brought about their downfall? And what can be described as their successes? And I just want to remind you guys that once again, the essay question on the assessment at the end of the unit will be you kind of making the decision on who you think was a more successful leader, Hitler or Stalin, based on a variety of factors. So keep that in mind as we're going through these lessons. Here is a table that you will be filling out. You should have some time to work on at least the Stalin column at the end of class today, where basically you are going to be comparing Hitler and Stalin side by side on these variety of topics. So in their policies, their rise to power, their cultural developments, role of terror or fear, their propaganda, successes, and failures. And basically, this should allow you to, if you fill this out correctly over the next two lessons, to really easily study for the essay question component of the assessment. Okay, let's get started. So as I go through the PowerPoint with you guys, I'm going to be going back and forth between this PowerPoint and the Word document over here, because like I said last class, these next two lessons are really an opportunity to start working on our note-taking skills. So how do we take notes in an efficient way, shortening, consolidating, all those things to save us time and energy. So I will be sometimes practicing and showing you how I would do it over here on this document. So Stalin was the communist dictator of the USSR. during the Soviet Union. So the first thing that we're going to look at is rise to power. So over here, the first thing you're going to put in your notes is rise to power. That will be your header. And then we'll start with some bullet points underneath that. Here's a photo of Lenin, Trotsky. We got Lenin in the center, Trotsky over here, and Stalin over here. After Lenin passed away, who was the first kind of leader of the Soviet Union, a power kind of struggle occurred between Lenin and Stalin. And if Stalin was going to gain power, Lenin, oh wow, I cannot talk. Wow, just like normal in class, huh? A power struggle opened up between Stalin and Trotsky after Lenin died. Okay, so we go to the PowerPoint. Under Lenin, Stalin and Trotsky both enjoyed high positions of power in the Communist Party. Also pay attention to the underlined things. Those are the things you want to pay attention to while you're taking notes. Stalin became the general secretary of the party. Lenin was worried about Stalin and believed he was rude and would not make a good leader. So if we're going to take notes on these things, Stalin became the general secretary of the party. So I would just put under Lenin, Stalin, maybe make a little arrow, secretary of Communist Party. Lenin was worried about Stalin and believed he was rude and wouldn't make a good leader. Lenin did not like Stalin for leadership. Lenin died and a power vacuum was created between Stalin and Trotsky. So Lenin died. I always use arrows in my notes, which led to power. Remember power, P-E-R, vacuum between Stalin and Trotsky. Let me zoom in a bit. I don't know how well you guys can see. Stalin used his position to gain support. Trotsky was exiled and murdered years later. So Stalin gained support and exiled / murdered Trotsky. You know, I can't spell, so there's some misspelled words in here, but you guys get the idea. Stalin removed all opposition from the party. Removed all opposition to party. Put friends and supporters in position of power. Put friends in power. And then I would put became dictator in, what did I say? 1929. Right? So basically, when Lenin died, Stalin and Trotsky kind of were in this battle. Because Stalin was the secretary of the Communist Party, he was really able to use his position to gain a lot of support within the Communist Party, and eventually was able to just completely remove Trotsky from power, as well as Russia. And once Trotsky was gone, he really had kind of free reign to take that dictator position as soon as he could. So the next header we're going to put is propaganda, cult of personality. Propaganda is info of a biased or misleading nature used to promote a cause or idea. So as we already talked about, right, propaganda put out there by usually governments to create a misleading view of an event or a person. A cult of personality is mass media or propaganda used to create an idealized, heroic, or worshipped image of a leader. So you're going to want to get those definitions down in your notes. I'm going to go ahead and just put the PowerPoint on now. You guys are going to continue taking notes, paying particular attention to the underlined parts, and abbreviating anytime you get the chance to. Remember, working on those note-taking skills. And also remember, feel free to pause and rewind the video whenever you need to. All right. So, types of propaganda that were used in the Soviet Union by Stalin included news, mass media, art. So a lot of paintings, sculptures, and posters were used to promote the idea of communism, Soviet Union, things like that. Education, right? This is a totalitarian regime, the Soviet Union. So they really did have control over what was being taught in the schools. And so if you have control over what's being taught in the schools, you're able to make sure that the teachers are teaching exactly what you want them to be teaching. And if you want them to be teaching that Stalin is an incredible, wonderful leader, then that's what they're going to do because they're afraid of the repercussions. Songs. So there was a lot of patriotic songs. Also radio, films. Stalin actually put his name into the Soviet Union national anthem. So that was another form of propaganda. The purpose of propaganda in terms of how Stalin used it was really to portray Stalin as an all-knowing leader, even to the extent of like a demigod. He knew everything, everyone could count on him. It also meant to portray Stalin as a father figure. So he was even given the nickname of Uncle Joe. So people looking to him as a supportive figure in their life. And overall, the purpose was to build him up as an amazing leader and really the father of communism. Propaganda was also used to try and gain support for the industrialization and collectivization goals of Stalin. One of Stalin's biggest goals when he came into power was to industrialize the Soviet Union because it was so far behind some of those other European countries that had already gone through industrialization. And so there was a lot of propaganda to try and get people kind of on board with that goal. It was also used to depict the worker as a hero, right? So people would be more, working is hard and working in factories is hard, but if there's a bunch of propaganda depicting the worker as an amazing, wonderful hero, makes people feel a lot better about doing it. It also gives an impression that Lenin and Stalin's relationship was strong. So, as I already talked about, Lenin didn't really like Stalin. He didn't think he should be leader. But because Lenin had so much popular support, Stalin used propaganda to make people think as though him and Lenin were very close, so that he could kind of like leech off of the support that Lenin had when he ruled. And right, the overall purpose was to create a society of good communist socialists who were loyal to Stalin. So here is an example. Over here you have Stalin, and then you have all these children kind of looking up at him, admiring him. So here you see that Uncle Joe figure, that fatherly figure. Over here you see the Soviet Union flag as that patriotic appeal, holding a smiling baby. Once again, that supportive father figure, trying to really build that cult of personality. Here you see Stalin kind of like sailing the communist ship, right? The father of communism. And then once again here, you have Lenin right here, Engels right here, Lenin right here, and Stalin right here. So this propaganda poster is really putting Stalin in the same category as, Karl Marx, the person who wrote the Communist Manifesto, Frederick Engels, co-author, and Lenin, the first person to really practice it, really putting Stalin in the same kind of arena as these people to try and, leech off of that support like I talked about. Okay, guys, so I'm going to have to end this video, and I will create a new video. So whenever you're ready, you're going to want to go to Stalin number 2 video.